Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine your car systems, maybe even the power grid, suddenly going haywire. Not because of some super complex hack, but maybe just a common coding mistake. Today, we're really digging into something called memory safety vulnerabilities. Sounds technical, I know, but stick with us. Our mission here is to unpack what these actually are, why they're frankly so dangerous, and how they quietly affect, well, pretty much everything, from your phone to critical infrastructure. Our sources give us a pretty comprehensive look at how these bugs work and, maybe more importantly, how people are trying to fix them.
That's exactly right. And these aren't just, obscure coding errors hidden away somewhere. They're really fundamental weaknesses. Attackers actively look for them to compromise systems. It's why big players like the NSA and CISA keep stressing how vital it is to address them. They even put out a specific alert, I think it was February 2025, called Eliminating Buffer Overflow Vulnerabilities. So yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase then. For those of us, just living our digital lives, what is a memory safety vulnerability at its core? What are we actually talking about?
Well, fundamentally, it happens when a program tries to do something with computer memory that it wasn't supposed to do. Think of it like maybe writing information outside of its designated little box in memory, or trying to read from a box that's already been emptied. The really surprising thing isn't just what they are, but how these, well, seemingly simple mistakes can become the keys attackers use to unlock entire systems. A lot of this goes back decades, actually, to design choices, especially in languages like C and C++. They don't have those built-in safety checks for memory. CI actually did a study, found something like 2/3 of all vulnerabilities in compiled code come directly from these memory safety problems.
Two-thirds. Wow,
Yeah.
that's huge. Does that suggest it's sort of a fundamental design issue, or is it more about, how software gets built and maintained over time?
Right.
And if they're that common, what are maybe one or two of the most impactful types we should know about?
It's definitely a deep-seated challenge, kind of woven into how lots of critical software has been developed. Two really common and often devastating types are buffer overflows and use after free errors. So a buffer overflow, that's CWE 119 if you track those codes, is basically when a program tries to cram more data into a space, a buffer, than it can actually hold. It spills
Okay.
over, right? And corrupts the memory next to it. This often lets an attacker inject their own code and run it. A really chilling example was Citrix Bleed. That was CVE 2023-4966. It let attackers completely bypass multi-factor authentication. Ransomware groups like Lockbit jumped all over it. It led to some major incidents like the Boeing ransomware attack you might remember.
Right, I remember hearing about that one. Okay, so that's buffer overflow. What about the other one you mentioned, use after free?
Yeah, use after free, or CWE 416. This one's a bit different. It happens when a program tries to use a pointer to a piece of memory after that memory has already been given back to the system. It's like trying to use a key for a hotel room you've already checked out of. If you try the lock, who knows what happens? Chaos, basically. It might just crash the program, which is bad enough. Or worse, it could create an opening for an attacker to execute arbitrary code. We saw this kind of thing with an Adobe Acrobat Reader DC vulnerability. That was CVE 2021-44720. It could potentially allow remote code execution just by opening a PDF.
Wow. Okay, those examples really bring it home. It's clearly not just about my laptop crashing. These technical bugs, they have really serious implications for, well, critical infrastructure, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the trend there is worrying. The number of memory safety CVEs reported in Industrial Control Systems ICS, it shot up. It went from under 1,000 back in 2014 to nearly 3,000 in 2023. That's a huge jump. And we're seeing real impacts like that 0-day Navanti Connect Secure CVE 2025-0282 allowed remote code execution on critical network devices. Or another one, the Rockwell Automation Power Monitor 1000 Remote Vulnerability CVE 2024-12372. That could lead to denial of service or even remote code execution on power monitoring equipment.
So we're talking about attackers potentially getting remote control or causing outages.
Exactly. Remote control of vital systems, major data breaches, shutting down essential services like power, water.
Yeah.
It's all on the table. It really does affect us all, potentially.
That sounds like a massive, almost overwhelming challenge, especially with all the older systems out there built using C and C++ bloodline. So what can organizations actually do? What are the strategies to, fight back against these things?
Well, the proactive stuff is key, of course. Things like adopting secure coding practices right from the start, using analysis tools, static and dynamic, to catch errors early, and just being really diligent about applying security patches. But you hit the nail on the head with legacy systems. That's the monumental challenge. Rewriting millions, sometimes tens of millions, of lines of code that run critical infrastructure. Systems designed to last 20, 30 years. Rewriting all that in memory-safe languages. It's often just, well, it's not practical. We're talking decades and billions of dollars. Often impossible.
Okay, so if a total rewrite is off the table for many of these critical systems, are there other ways? Any sort of innovative approaches to bridge that gap for the software that's already out there?
Yeah, that's where some really interesting technologies come in, like Load-time Function Randomization, or LFR. Companies like RunSafe Security offer this. It's a type of runtime protection. The clever part about LFR is that it kind of sidesteps that huge legacy code problem. Think of it like shuffling the internal map of the software every single time it starts. See, attackers usually rely on knowing the exact predictable memory layout to exploit these vulnerabilities. LFR just constantly changes that layout. It makes it incredibly hard, often impossible, to reliably exploit about, I think it's 86 different types of memory safety CVEs. And crucially, you don't have to rewrite any code.
Huh. So it's more about making the target unpredictable rather than perfectly secure. It really feels like tackling memory safety isn't just a single fix. It's this ongoing fundamental battle for system security, isn't it? Especially as software gets more and more complex everywhere.
Absolutely. It's a constant challenge. And in a world that's just increasingly dependent on all this complex software, particularly, in our critical infrastructure, it kind of raises a big question, doesn't it? Is the best path forward trying to write perfect, completely bug-free code, which might be impossible? Or is it about building really robust adaptive defenses? Defenses that can protect systems even when there are vulnerabilities we haven't even found yet. Something for all of us to think about, I suppose.